Oh, welcome back. Welcome back. Let me see if I was trying to get my computer fixed. Can you guys hear me? Hopefully you can. Hopefully you can hear me and see me. Um, we are going to get into it. Have you ever asked yourself what would the U.S. be like if we didn't have diversity and inclusion, and if we didn't have white supremacy? What would America look like if we didn't have those things? You guys type in the chat. Let me know that you can hear me and see me. Type in the chat. Let me know you can hear me and see me. And I see you can hear me. And I see myself on the screen. So I'm just assuming that you can see me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to talk about why the media is lying to us. The media is lying to us, and they trying to, particularly uh, because of the election is coming up this year, they want us to get all riled up because of white supremacy. And then they want us to get fooled with the trickery. They're saying that the crime rate is down. If the crime rate is so down, then why are all these small businesses closing in urban cities because of crime? You guys put it in chat. Let me know. Why are all small businesses closed? Like on a rampant number of small businesses are closing because of crime. Matter of fact, in Oakland, since the pandemic, they had over 200 businesses closed in Oakland, California. And they were out protesting. The business owners were talking about going on strike because they want their mayor to do something about the crime. So we'll talk about that today: crime, DEI, and white supremacy. That's all today on another episode of Business Talks. Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. Yes, thank you for tuning in, you guys. So we're going to talk about crime. Now, they just came out with a report saying that the crime has reduced drastically. The crime has reduced drastically in the United States since last year. And what they don't tell you, okay, the crime has reduced since last year, but they don't tell you, okay, the crime went up tremendously in the last 2 years. So since the crime is going down, is it going down like a rampant rate, or is it just leveling off where it's still higher than what the normal rates are, if that makes any sense? Okay. But liberal media, the mainstream media, wants you to believe that the crime rate is down, which doesn't make any sense. And they want you to believe the crime rate is so down, and we have this fantastic economy. I just posted, I don't know if you guys follow me on my Facebook. I just posted you know how Facebook gives you a memory picture? Back in 2000 and it might have been 2017 or 18, either 18 or 19, just before the pandemic, but Donald Trump was still in office. Gas was $1.99. I posted it and I reposted it. Gas was $1.99. But the media will have you believe that gas is in the economy, inflation is really not hurting anyone because there is no inflation. So I'm going to show you this one particular news report, and it's talking about the Safeway. Safeway is closing down after 40 years in San Francisco because of The crime. Because of the crime. It's no other way to put it. They're saying it's because of the crime. In San Francisco. And everybody knows.
Who's pumped for tax season?
We talk about San Francisco all the time. And we know they're in dire straits. They need to probably call the National Guard to get some of their stuff fixed. Because homelessness is a problem. They have a drug problem in San Francisco. You saw what they did when China came. They relocated the homeless, put them somewhere. I'm not for sure where they put them, but they put them somewhere, cleaned up the streets like San Francisco was this great place to live. And then when China left, all the junkies came back on the corner downtown and was shooting up on the corner. Anyway, so this particular story is talking about Safeway closing and how some of the residents are kind of upset about it.
Francisco, one of the last large grocery stores in the city's Fillmore district, will shut down in a matter of months.
The Safeway near Webster and Geary will close to make way for new housing. KTVU's Zach Sauce joins us now in the studio. And Zach, some longtime customers are disappointed tonight.
Yeah, that's right. Safeway planning to sell its land to the Fillmore, to a developer, positioning the closure, as you mentioned, as an opportunity for new housing. Customers, meantime, calling it another step towards a food desert in their community.
Oh, no, they need to stop that.
I'm not happy about it. It's not good for the neighborhood.
Martin X and those just learning Thursday, this San Francisco Safeway will soon be no more.
For elderly people who stay around in some of these apartments, you know, it's going to be kind of tough.
Safeway selling its 3.6-acre lot along Webster Street in the city's Fillmore district to a developer. Align Real Estate expected to turn it into a mix of commercial, retail, and housing, with the supermarket shutting up shop as early as March.
This is the only Safeway around this neighborhood, and I don't think that is like other grocery stores as big as Safeway in here.
The nearest Safeway a mile away in the Castro. In a statement, San Francisco Supervisor Dean Preston welcoming the additional housing, but calling the timeline, quote, unacceptable, adding he's talking to the developer about the possibility of a replacement grocery store.
Oh, it would be a great loss.
For some of us to live in the neighborhood, most of our lives, it's walking distance.
In a statement, Mayor London Breed noting plans for a new Trader Joe's to soon open in nearby Hayes Valley and calling the Safeway sale, quote, a rare opportunity to add a significant amount of housing to the area. A similar sentiment echoed by Safeway, which some neighbors called disingenuous.
The crime is probably the reason why. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes.
No wonder they're closing, though. It's a very high crime in here.
Over the last 2 years, Safeway installing exit gates, closing.
Did you see that? What in the world? In the world is that? That's an exit gate. What? Did you guys see that? That is just ridiculous.
An entrance and beefing up. Safeway installing exit gates, closing over the last 2 years.
If you was going to steal something, you just hop over that gate. I mean, especially if it's like younger people. Of course, your older individuals are not going to hop on that. The younger people, if I wanted to steal something, I'll just, jump right over that. That's not like a barrier. But I guess if it's working for them, but apparently is not. They're calling it quits.
Years, Safeway installing exit gates, closing an entrance, and beefing up security to combat crime.
I knew one of two things would happen. Prices would go up or they'd end up shutting it down. Probably a little bit of both has happened now.
And we did reach out to the developer, Align Real Estate, to learn more about their plans for the site. So far, we've yet to hear back. But again, the sale really concerning for some in this neighborhood. One man, it's been his supermarket since he was a kid, and he's in his 70s.
Not just groceries, too. I'm thinking my Safeway, it's also my pharmacy.
So pharmacy, groceries, all that good stuff will not be there. But they said they have another grocery store a mile away. But if you don't have any transportation, how are you going to get to the grocery store? How would you do that? So, and it's saying that they're selling it to a developer. And Mayor London Breed called it a real and rare opportunity to add a significant amount of new homes. Would they be affordable though? Because rent is not affordable for anybody. So you're trying to probably push out some of the people that are middle class people, lower to middle class people, probably to put this new development in. And then you're going to put a Trader Joe's. I don't know one Trader Joe's that's in the hood. Allegedly. We don't know. They're saying that it might be a Trader Joe's nearby. Okay. So that's one problem. Okay. So this Safeway is closing, but you have where's my CNN saying the new crime numbers is declining. The new crime numbers have declined. Matter of fact, the homicides dropped by over 10% in America's biggest cities in 2023. Detroit is one of them. They said it dropped. Actually, Detroit, I think it dropped by 17% from last year, but it went up 25%. Some cities, it went up 35% from 2019 to 2020, or 21 to 22 to 22. So, I mean, just because you drop 10%, that doesn't mean you're still in the red zone. Anyway, so yeah, CNN is touting that homicide is down. And this is what they had to say.
Bounty versus the family dishcloth. Drying with a fresh sheet of Bounty leaves your hands.
Let me just read some of this. It says, after 3 years of distressingly high levels of homicide in the U.S. declined significantly across the board in 2023, even as the public's concern about crime remained at its highest in over 2 decades. It should be, because we have social media. Just because you're not reporting it, that doesn't mean it's not true. So let's see what they're saying about this.
In America, related to the pandemic and tensions over social justice, new indications tonight that the tide of violent crime may finally have turned in some cities. CNN has compiled numbers from police departments of major American cities. And in the 5 biggest cities in the U.S., New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, and Phoenix, homicide rates were way down in 2023 from the previous year, a drop of more than 10% in all those cities.
Folks who've been in and around law enforcement for decades, like I have, I don't think we've ever thought we'd see decreases like this.
New York City's homicides dropped last year after 4 consecutive years of
But you got to really think about what they're saying. I don't think we will ever see this decreases like this. I'm going to try to find something from last year or the year before last. They're probably saying that just the opposite. I don't think we would have ever seen increases like this. So it's like, what are we really saying here? It's still out of the norm. That's what I would think. It's out of the norm. Crime rates are out of the norm. Just because it's decreased, it's still out of the norm.
Homicide increases in the city.
What these numbers tells us is that we are turning the corner on crime in the city.
In Baltimore, victimized by relentless violence in recent years, 2023 was the first year the city saw fewer than 300 homicides in almost a decade. Detroit experienced the fewest homicides that city had seen since 1966. Analysts say part of that is due to an exodus of people from Detroit, but part of it isn't.
It speaks to the way they're thinking about law enforcement, they're thinking about interacting with the public, the way that they're approaching solving crimes.
Other possible factors in the overall decline, the criminal justice system being more functional now after much of it was shut down during the COVID-19 pandemic. And experts say police departments have started using effective strategies like focused deterrence.
There's always a small number of people in.
To me, that's a bunch of bullshit. That we already know police, number one, police have low morale. Number two, the police department is lacking police. Number three, the police that they have in some of these cities, they shouldn't be police officers. And it's putting a strain on the good police officers. To me, it's a bunch of crap. We have a super chat, and thank you for the super chat, Rough Girl. Rough Girl, really appreciate you. Thanks for the great content. No problem. Thanks for the great content. Well, I appreciate you. Captain Bird Eye 4, it is bad to say I hate every government currently on this planet. Okay. Dwayne Manziel, Dalton trustees filed suit against Tiffany. I know they filed it this morning, or was it yesterday? Ahmad, we got Ahmad in the building. And I'm in Philadelphia, and there are many businesses closing and moving to the suburbs or closing altogether. Exactly. Closing all together. Another super chat from Rough Girl. Appreciate you. Where people stealing from the safety gate. Stealing with the safety gate. Yeah, you know they're stealing. We're talking about young people shoplifting. You don't get no old ladies trying to shoplift. And if, they pretty honest, older ladies, older men, some of them, we have, there's probably some bad apples out there, but usually elderly, they're not going to shoplift. They ain't trying to do all that, So what are they saying? Okay, so we got this former Boston police commissioner. He's saying, oh, they're using effective strategies. But he does say there is a finite group of bad apples. And once they get rid of the bad apples, then it probably will clear up. You have less people being coerced to do these types of things. This is what he's saying right now.
In a small number of locations in these cities that drive these horrendous numbers, you can go in and use this targeted enforcement process to take out the major actors.
Still, the perceptions among Americans tend to contradict the numbers. According to a recent Gallup poll, more than 3/4 of Americans believe there's more crime in the U.S. than a year ago. Analysts say the rhetoric from the campaign trail sometimes fuels misperceptions.
Crime is rampant and out of control, like never before.
And experts say the attention on sensational crimes like smash and grab robberies fuels perceptions that crime is rampant.
Social media tends to exacerbate people's perception of things by continually publishing videos that are out there that show really outrageous crimes.
Now, not all the news on major crime is positive.
But numbers don't lie. Okay, so if we're saying that the crime rate is down and it's getting so much better in these cities. Now, let's take, for instance, the Boston ex-police commissioner or whatever his title was. He said, okay, you could go into a set location or area and get these groups out and pick them out and say, hey, we're going to put you in jail and use deterrence to stop them from doing crime. Okay, that's fine. And that probably will work. But you cannot deny that, okay, if you're using those tactics in these certain areas, why are all these businesses closing? Where are the businesses going to? Somebody throw me a lifeline. You're saying that the crime rate is down. Why can't the business owners see that? I live in the suburbs, even out here at the Walmart. And I don't go in Walmart that often, but when I do, at the Walmart, two things I want to tell you. At the Walmart, they check your receipt. It's like Sam's, you check your receipts, when you go to Sam's or Costco. So they check your receipt. It doesn't matter if they see you bagging up your own stuff. As long as the camera doesn't go off, they'll let you whatever walk out the door. But they still check your receipt if you have larger items or whatever. Number two, all the people that's at Walmart, besides some of the cashiers, they're all foreigners. So the people with the skilled trade job or the self-service jobs that were for Americans, I guess you would call them the lower skill set jobs, those are going towards immigrants. And like I said, I live in a predominantly white neighborhood. And it's predominantly Venezuelans at the Walmart, or they're Latino Mexicans or something. My son, he has 2 kids that came from Mexico in his class over the last 2 years. Like literally straight from Mexico over the last 2 years. And we might say, oh, that's not a lot. No, there's 4 classes in his grade level at his school. And it's like 30 something kids a class, but they put 2 kids in his class and they were literally from a different country. And I'm not talking about like Germany or anything like that. I'm talking about like they were from like Mexico or Venezuela or something like that. One of the guys, he's friends with my son and he speaks Spanish, but we're talking about the crime is going down. Now, what's the cause of crime? People don't have any jobs. They don't got no money. So they go out and steal bread. Isn't that what AOC has said? They have to feed their family, so they go out and steal bread. They go out and steal bread. So they're saying the crime is down, and I guess we're not supposed to argue with that point, saying that the crime is down. And I don't know why they're saying that, but that's what they're saying. Okay, but we're going to take a look at these. Before I get to that, let me show you this one thing. It says over 200 businesses close up shop for strike over a rampant Oakland crime. Rampant Oakland crime. 200 businesses, they closed. And it says owners who are fed up with the crime in the city participated in a one-day strike Tuesday to bring attention to what they call lack of action from the officials.
As the owners try to send a message to city leaders. Good evening. I'm Ryan Yamamoto.
And I'm Elizabeth Cook. John Ramos spoke to one business owner who says things can't continue like this any longer.
When Oakland missed that deadline to get money to fight retail crime, for a lot of business owners, it was the last straw. So on this day, at least for a couple of hours, they put their money where their mouth is. The anger over crime spilled out into the street as members of Oakland's business community expressed their outrage over the lawlessness that has gripped the city in recent months. More than 200 businesses shut their doors between 10 and noon in protest, and an angry press conference was staged in front of Le Cheval restaurant, a 38-year institution closing this week because of crime in the neighborhood.
People get robbed in all these businesses all around Oakland. If you look at Richmond, there is nothing like that. It's only Oakland. If there's something wrong in Oakland, they need to fix it because it's really bad.
Without basic safety, there's no business. Without basic safety, there's no community. Without safety, there's no city. Without basic safety, there's only chaos.
Just across the street, chaos has become business as usual for Raj Gautami, owner of Annapurna Restaurant. He shows video of his business being broken into on Sunday.
The door was broken, the glass was broken.
What could they possibly steal out of a restaurant? Some silverware? I guess you're trying to steal some food, but you could go to the grocery store for that. What are you possibly stealing? To me, it doesn't make any sense.
The cash register was stolen. They have taken everything.
And it's not the first time. 6 months ago, his doors and windows were shattered 3 times in 1 week. And when he calls police, he says it takes hours for them to show up. Derek Johnson owns a landmark in Jack London Square, home of Chicken and Waffles, where he says an entire party was robbed of their jewelry out on the sidewalk.
We have to do something because after 20 years of business, first time I'm ever shaking my head like, is this even worth it? Do I stay open or not? And I stay open because we employ people, you know, and it's hard.
These are not wealthy white people trying to protect their privilege, as some might have people believe.
I hate when they use that. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, Asian. It doesn't really matter. It's a business owner that, like, if you literally own a business before, it's like your blood, sweat, and tears. So why would they say that in the oh, they're trying to protect? It's not like they're trying to protect their white privilege. Who cares? It's a person that worked hard for something and they don't want nobody to take their shit. But you know, I got some other comments, so I'm going to let them continue to speak.
They're people of color who understand the reality of police abuse, but are also the most frequent victims of crime.
These are black-owned businesses that are being vandalized.
Yeah, you are you listening to this narrative? They understand police abuse, okay, but they're also the victim of crime. Who's the victim? Who's victimizing them? Their own people. Their own people are victimizing them. You guys put it in the chat. You don't normally get victimized by the police. You get victimized by the own people, your neighbor. I had a girlfriend, I think I told you guys this before. She lived in Southfield. She lived in Southfield, like the borderline. I think she was on the Detroit side, but Southfield in Detroit on 8 Mile, there's a part where it becomes Southfield and there's a part where it's Detroit. I think she lived on the Detroit side. But anywho, she got robbed. Her house was broken into over a span of 3 months. It might have been 4 months. In the span of 3 months. Who do you think was robbing her? Her neighbor probably was looking to see, oh, she goes to work between the hours of 7 and 4. She don't get home to 5. Let me rob her. She was in that, and she was a single woman, but she was in that house all but 6 months. And she had to break her lease because they kept on robbing her. And it was her neighbor, allegedly.
And terrorized. And we're saying we need protection. So how do we do that in a balanced way? So, you know, that's the argument we're having, you know, and not this, you know, polarized that, oh, you can't do anything.
No one can say for sure what will work, but they insist that what's being done now isn't. And that's why Oakland letting so much money slip away, for whatever reason, was such a powerful example to them of everything that's going wrong.
Even if it was an accident and they let that deadline pass, that said to me they don't care, that there is no urgency with what's going on.
Some are calling for Mayor Sheng Tao to declare a state of emergency in the city. 2 weeks ago, she dismissed that idea.
I mean, let's just call it what it is. It's just political theater.
But the play is rapidly becoming a Greek tragedy, and the business owners say something has to happen soon before the curtain comes down on all of them.
And it's time now that we stop.
So you heard that. You heard that. One of the individuals sounds like he has like a Caribbean accent. He said, how can we do that, get protection in a safe way or whatever? It's like, you live in California. California, they were maybe the second state to go along with this no bond policy. Okay. They're probably the first state ever to say, hey, if you get robbed, you can't defend yourself. The owners, they have a policy in California. You could get a misdemeanor charge or up to a felony if you actually defend your place of business. You're not supposed to defend your place of business. Hopefully your insurance will cover it. So you want the police to step in and use force, but not force. What do you want? You want to defund the police and say, hey, don't be too hard on them. Defund them. Don't police, be nice. Hey, Robert, put that stuff down, please. Hey, you're trying to steal that cashier stuff. You put that stuff down in the name of the law. If not, I'm going to have to arrest you. Nicely. Does that make any sense? You guys put it in the chat. Does that make any sense? You live in California. You don't like the police. And that's what the news report said. You don't, Black folks are real familiar about the other side of the law or getting bad reactions with the police. I guess they're going back to, Rodney King got beat up in California. You have negative encounters with the police. So we really don't want the police. But now, our businesses, we want the police because we thinking about shutting down. Now you want even they want them to call the state an emergency. Not only they want the police, they want the National Guard. The National Guard will be worse than the police. Does this fit the same story? Now, this story, let's see when it came out. This story came out Tuesday. Or sometime, a couple of months ago. This story came out a couple of months ago. Does it fit the same CNN report saying crime is going down? Does it have the same report? It's not saying the same thing. It's very contradictory of each other. Blazak 1, foreigners as in illegal immigrants. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't have their green card yet. Yeah. You talking about the people that said at Walmart? Yeah, of course. Robert Jordan, keep voting Democrat, and this is what you get. Salt and pepper shakers are worth a lot of money on the black market. Rihanna said, I will break into the chicken and waffles right about now. I'm angry. I bet a lot of these people 3 years ago were screaming, defund the police. I'm pretty sure they were. Because if you're saying, hey, how can we get the police force down here nicely? Like, what do you want? If I was calling the police and somebody was attacking me, I don't want the police to say, hey, freeze. No, if they are attacking me, I want the police to help me. Save me whatever amount of force you have to save me with. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm being discriminatory saying that. towards myself, or towards the person that's harming me. But I would want to get saved. And if the police have to beat the guy up, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. What are you talking about? Defund the police. Anyway, so we got defund the police news. I just want to show you the statistics. You know what? And I want to show you this report. Now, CNN is saying one thing, but Fox says a whole different thing. Now, CNN report came out on the 3rd. This report came out. Sure. This report came out when? Oh, yesterday. This report came out yesterday. This is Fox News, what they're talking about. And they're talking about DC. It says DC crime spiral takes new twists with apparent call for...
With DataCamp, you don't need to download Python to learn Python. You can learn right in your browser with hands.
I said unite against retailers because of a store is being closed.
Well, high costs and surging crime pushing 52 restaurants to close their doors in Washington, D.C. this year. That includes our next guest, who closed one of his restaurants in November, saying he's simply tired of his customers and staff getting robbed, threatened, and carjacked. Noe Landini is the managing director and CEO of Rex Management. He joins us now, and he has some of the best restaurants in D.C. I have been to many of the Landini establishments. But, you know, Noe, I was really pleased that we had a chance to talk to you today, because D.C. restaurateurs are really feeling the pain. It's not just coming out of the high costs from inflation, but now crime is having an impact. Explain.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, you know, you can pull these numbers up on MPD and the FBI and IBRS system, and the numbers are staggering. And it's amazing to me that no more people are talking about it. I mean, we're talking about it today, but this has been going on for a year. We're talking about marked police cruisers getting carjacked, ambulances. We had an American Red Cross van that was supposed to feed the homeless the other day get carjacked. I mean, it's out of control. And, you know, we're wondering, obviously we decided not to renew our lease because the next 5 years didn't make sense from an investment standpoint. But what's the long game here? Like, what is the long game for mayors like DC or in New York to like completely destroy their city and not provide the resources that we need to conduct business?
Well, and that's a great point. And Mayor Muriel Bowser of D.C., I've interviewed her numerous times. She is really all hands on deck and is looking to the D.C. City Council. But the problem you point out, the numbers are astounding. Look here, we can show our viewers what you're talking about. Motor vehicle theft up 84%, robbery 68%, violent crime 39%, homicides 36%, and the list goes on and on. But I want to hear from you, Noe, how it's affecting specifically customers and employees who have to worry about being robbed or even carjacked.
Remember, we talked about, I think Joe Biden's granddaughter, she was carjacked. Well, she wasn't out in her car, but she left her car parked. I don't know where she was going. But when she came back, her car was gone, and the Secret Service was trying to stop them, and they couldn't.
Who's pumped for tax season? Let's.
I don't know why I did that.
And employees who have to worry about being robbed or even carjacked.
We're going across the river to Virginia. You know, it's a 15-minute drive, and you have a better, safer experience. Employees are safer. Customers don't have to deal with the things that they have to deal with downtown right now. If you walk around, just walk around. Just walk around. Walk around the arena. Walk around in Penn Quarter, and tell me what your experience is like. Okay, we're not just getting heckled by panhandlers or anything like that. It's aggressive.
Yeah.
It is extremely aggressive and uncomfortable. You're going to take your kids or family to go to a game, to go see a show, to go to one of our restaurants. I mean, why would you?
Well,
It just doesn't make any sense. It's dangerous.
Your point is so well made. In fact, the Washington, D.C. Wizards, the NBA team, and the Capitals, the hockey team, are doing exactly that and going across the river for this very reason. I guess I want to ask you, because you've had fantastic restaurants in D.C. and Virginia for years. Have you ever seen this bad?
No. In 2019, we were crushing it in DC. We were doing so well. And then, you know, by not letting the police do their job, essentially, which is, I think everybody's afraid to do their job now. Nobody's enforcing the law, it seems like, anymore. You know, that played a toll, and we suffered as a result of it. 2019 was a great year, and then we went through the pandemic, and when we came out of it, we didn't recover. And you know, I'm not the only one. Look, I could have renewed for another 5 years. That wasn't a problem for us. So we just made a decision not to do it because it didn't make sense anymore. It's so out of control.
It's sad to see, but Noe, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience, because you're right. You're not alone. And for the great nation's capital, we hate to lose restaurants, but understand this problem. Noe Landini, thank you very much.
So these are the crime rates. And this, like I said, it's kind of sad that, you know, the media is telling us that we're decreasing in crime. But I want to show you these numbers. Now, do they have 2023 here? They don't have 2023 here. They stop at 2021. But that's neither here nor there. I want to show you this, because between 2019 and 2020, the crime rate went up almost 30%. 30%. Then it's a steady climb. I'm assuming it's climbing steady until 2022, and then it dropped. But these are the normal rates, though. You know, annual change, you don't see nothing like drastically. You see in 2015, the crime went up by 11%. It went down, and it's steadily decreased. You notice when the economy is doing pretty well, the crime rate is down, you know. But you had a slight increase in 2019 at 1% change. But overall, the last 10 years, the crime has been flat. Besides in 2015 and 2016, you've seen a spike. And then when 2020 happened, it spiked up, which is really ridiculous, and then increased again. So what I'm saying, okay, it's decreased, but it's not normal. It's still not at a normal rate. It's not at a normal level. And it's still affecting businesses. And that's why people are leaving and closing up shop, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You guys put it in chat. Let me know what you think. Black Zach said, I think they're trying to sidestep the fact that many people don't want police defunded, but better trained, held accountable, and not further militarized at the expense of the funding community resources by trying to make Blacks seem desperate. I don't think most sane folks wanted police defunded. I don't think so either. Because who you gonna call? Who are you gonna call? I want to know how many of these criminals are Black versus light-skinned immigrants. Stop it. In many videos I've seen, they're only wearing enough clothes to show that they're brown skinned. Many are assuming that they're Black ADOS. I'm not for sure. I'm not for sure. But I know if you're a victim of a crime, more likely is going to be a person that looks like you. If you are a victim of a violent crime, more likely it's going to be a person that looks like you. You know. If I recall, race hate crime spiked around 2016. I mean, I think that's a narrative that CNN's probably told you. We saw, and I don't know how long you've been following me. I pulled up police data. You got to look at FBI statistics. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull because I want to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy. Trust FBI statistic, maybe the police data. Statista, they have good crime data, and it's real, you know, not a narrative. If you trust other people, they're going to spin their narrative and they're going to say, oh, crime, like they're saying, crime decreased by 10%. Okay, yeah, it decreased by 10%, but that doesn't mean it's not bad. It's still shit out there. That's why all these businesses are closing. So we could say hate crime decreased by 10% or increased by 10%. They're saying that, you know, you're sensationalizing crime or these mass, I guess, smash and grabs when you see them on Twitter. Well, don't you sensationalize anything that you put on TV is sensationalized, because that's what you're always showing. If you always showing, hey, white supremacy, you're sensationalizing white supremacy. If you sensationalize somebody, police brutality, and statistic doesn't show that Black folks is killed on a rampant rate by police. Statistically, we're not. You guys, I pull that statistics up all the time. White, I think it was what we looked at, 1,100 people that was injured by the police or died in shooting, died by the hands of police. 1,100 folks last year. And 400 people was Black. But if we talk about Black on Black crime, and I hate to be the one that's talking about Black on Black crime, like I said, if you're a victim of a crime, it's not going to be police. It's going to be the person that you know or that looks like you. And those numbers are staggering. So anyway, it's sensationalized if they put it on the news. And they could say, oh, those police brutality or white supremacy hate crimes went up by 10%. Okay, if it was at the 20 people, or we could say 300 people experienced a hate crime in America, rose by 10% or rose by 20%. That's 60 people, 360 people. experience hate crime. I think if I could remember correctly, hate crime, 2,600 people experience hate crime. 2,600 people. What is that, the percentage of that population? 330 million out of 340 million. I think it's 340 million people in the United States. What's the percentage? So when we say, oh, hate crime rose by 10% or 20% out of 2,000 people, it really is not the factor or the thing that we should be worried about. And that's what I'm getting at. Nobody should die. Nobody should die of racism or whatever, hate crimes or anything. I'm not saying that. But we're fighting the wrong cause. You're more likely to die of the hands of a person that looks like you than some white supremacist Joe Schmo that's talking about, oh, hang all the niggas. Let's be real. Anyway, I want to get to Vivek Ramaswamy because he was on MSNBC. I think that was. And they keep on honing in. The reason why I'm saying white supremacy, to me, is always someone of that white supremacy doesn't affect, if we really want to get down to the nitty gritty. Always saying, oh, how do you feel about white supremacy? You don't feel bad? There's white supremacy everywhere. Really? It is. Like, and so he was on. Yeah. Yeah, you can have some. He was on MSNBC talking. No, close my door, Chase. And they was talking about white supremacy. Close my door. If I could find it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. No, this is NBC News exclusive.
Know who that is? Have you white supremacy?
We could say Vivek Ramaswamy, you might not like him. Vivek Ramaswamy, he is a great debater. Whatever you feel about him, you could say he's a great debater. You don't even have to like him. But this guy knows how to debate people. Whether you like him or not, whether he's right or wrong, he's a great debater. And this lady, I don't even know her name, but she was trying to hone in on this white supremacy. And of course, Vivek Ramaswamy does classic Vivek Ramaswamy, saying, no. We have other statistics to prove otherwise. White supremacy is not the biggest threat to our democracy. Anyway.
What happened last night for a moment, because when you were talking to reporters last night, you called white supremacy a myth. When someone asked you about Dylan Roof, you said you didn't know who that is. Have you looked up what happened in 2015?
Yeah, look, I said this last night. Invidious racial discrimination is wrong no matter how it happens. But if a Washington Post reporter is asking me almost like a catechism, whatever question I said, I'm against invidious racial discrimination, whatever form it takes, but says, do you denounce white supremacy? It's incumbent on us for us to define what white supremacy is. I wrote my book, Woke Inc., and I've written about the detailed understanding of what the popular understanding of these terms have come to mean. Do you believe punctuality is a vestige of white supremacy, Dasha?
Look,
because if you don't, then you have a disagreement about many of the people who are defining those terms, or the written word, or the use, or the nuclear family. These aren't my words. These are the words of intellectual proponents from Ibram Kendi to the Ayanna Presleys to BLM that have said these are vestiges of white supremacy. So,
Mr. Ramos,
being to work on time is white supremacy. I've read that before. These are intelligent people saying these things, or we can't say intelligent. These are supposedly doctorates. They probably got their doctorates in diversity and inclusion. I'm not for sure, but they're telling you, hey, when you tell me to be on time, that's white supremacy. Or we viewed on this show, if you correct someone's English, that's white supremacy. Remember that teacher or administrator? She was saying you shouldn't correct the black child if they say acts instead of ask. Axe, A-X-E, like you're chopping, instead of ask. That's white supremacy. To correct. Your child go to school, and I guess she was in California somewhere, but your child go to school to learn proper English, and they don't want you to correct her. They don't want for the teachers to correct your children on improper English. You should be mad as hell. Anyway, it's white supremacy, apparently.
You can't have it both ways.
You
have to have an honest discussion.
Straw man arguments.
Last night,
you brought up Jussie Smollett as the best example of white supremacy.
Was the hottest thing in news in the back of a fake actual attack on him that we have to contend with.
And yet you have examples like the Buffalo shooter in New York.
I just want to highlight this girl. I just want to highlight her face. She looked like she about to whoop Vivek's ass. Like she looked like she cannot stand this Indian man. She probably don't like men. She probably don't like me. Who is this girl? Somebody put it in the chat. Who is this girl? I don't even know who this lady is. Maybe these are new people that's coming on the scene, like new anchors. You can't put no amateur against Vivek Ramaswamy to debate or to, you can ask straight to the point questions, but controversial questions. And you think you're gonna pull one out and debate him, you are an amateur compared to Vivek. I mean, Vivek, like I said, you might not like him, but this dude is the great debater. You can't deny him. He has a lot of skills on the debate. And this lady right here, she looking like she got her resting bitch face on. Oh, I wish I could enlarge her face. Let me take a screenshot of this. This is a whole meme right here. Screenshot. She's a whole meme. Anyway. Let me rewind it a little bit.
That we have to contend with.
And yet you have examples like the Buffalo shooter in New York just in 2022.
You have other examples.
But you are also cherry picking when you bring up Jussie Smollett.
I'll look at all of the statistics. More black on black crime. If you really care about actual crime against black Americans, let's get to the root causes of it in the inner cities of this country.
The Anti-Defamation League tracked a 38% increase in white supremacist propaganda last year.
Who's tracking that?
The Anti-Defamation League.
Yeah, the ADL. I don't think is.
ADL is not, you can't trust their statistics. But anyway,
it's a particularly credible source
so
when they have cherry-picked information.
When we're talking about
I would suggest look at there's a table, 2x2 table, federal law enforcement data, which you could say what you do. Maybe we shouldn't believe that either. But look at black on Asian crime, black on black crime,
the FBI
white on
hate
black
crime statistics. That's a law enforcement agency. 59.1% was based on race, ethnicity, and ancestry, saying hate crimes rose 12% between 2020 and 2021.
Look at the absolute crimes themselves. What they classify as a hate crime is itself a political judgment. I think that when you actually care about protecting life, if you want to say Black Lives Matter, let's look at where Black lives are actually being lost. It's in the cities, at the heart of other black Americans and criminals
and that's
that are restrained by the
issue that we
absence
talk
of
about as well.
police.
But are we
And
supposed to ignore white supremacist hate crimes?
We're not supposed to ignore any kind of crime, Dasha. That's what I say. But what I see is a selective reporting. Take the Nashville Transgender Shooter Manifesto. Every shooter manifesto in a mass shooting has been released within 48 hours, except for that one shooter in Nashville. Now, it ended up being leaked. What do you see? It wasn't a white supremacist. It was somebody that was actually making fun of using derogatory terms. I believe.
Okay, so why are you okay talking about that manifesto and not talking about the manifesto from the 2015?
I'm more than okay talking about both. But what I'm asking is, why is the mainstream media suppress that one? Why did the police suppress that one? Why was that the one shooter manifesto that of all of the mass shootings, every other shooter manifesto has been released? I'm focused on that one because that's the one that's been hidden from us. And it comes back to the point of my candidacy and the way I'm going to run this country. Trust the people with the truth.
I want to interject. Hate crime data. If you go to FBI hate crime data, hate crime could be anything that, I put a noose on a door, I wrote words in somebody's locker, or I could just send a nasty message to you saying, hey, kill all whoever, whatever type of group. This is just an example. I'm not saying do these things. Okay, these are examples. So examples of hate crime. I would like to see, they don't break it out. Crime, like violent crimes, people that were hurt from these crimes, like physical hurt, and people that have died from these crimes. They're not going to break it out because they know the numbers is non-existent. They're not really relevant. Okay. And I'm pretty sure the media reports every single person that died of a hate crime. They report that. We see it on the news all the time. But what he's getting at, he's saying that what he's going to say, black on black crime is the most detrimental to Black Americans.
If it doesn't match your narrative,
the reality is right now,
I think the media did not hold the police accountable. They would have been demanding that.
Starting to gain traction with the Black community, with Latino voters. Do not worry that your rhetoric is pushing them away. There are folks
to the contrary. I think we're going to bring Black people into this movement
who are concerned about your rhetoric.
Well, you know what? I'm concerned about their corruption. If you had somebody who actually one of the most prominent Black influencer the other day, what did she say? I've been Black my whole life, and this man could actually unify this country, in response to a long exchange I had with a Black pastor who had an event here in Iowa, did challenge me with a hard question, asking me, are my views against affirmative action, how do those align with historical racial injustice?
Affirmative action is a debate that is being had.
If I may just finish this. If I may finish my point,
Dasha.
With racism, I think I will be better positioned.
But you're denying that racism is a problem.
I've never denied that racism is a problem. And if you listen to the response I gave to that Black pastor, my whole point is racism has been a major problem for most of our national history. But we're getting close to the promised land that Martin Luther King envisioned. We're as darn close to it as we ever have been. And so what bothers the heck out of me is it's right when we're close to that promised land. Martin Luther King said it, I may not get there with you, and he didn't get there with us. But I think it desecrates the legacy of our civil rights movement, desecrates the legacy of Martin Luther King, that right when we get closest to the point of having racial equality and gender equality and even opportunities for people of minorities of many types, are we perfect? No. But are we as close as we've ever been? Yes, we have. To then obsess over systemic racism, to then obsess over white guilt and otherwise, we're creating new waves of racism, Dasha, that we otherwise would have avoided right when we're closest to having achieved what even the proponents of the civil rights movement would have dreamed of. That's what bothers me. My exchange with that Black pastor about a week or so ago, right here in Iowa, not far from where we are, it was in Indianola, not far from where we are in Des Moines, was that we're founded on the pursuit of a more perfect union. The pursuit of liberty, equality, and justice for all. And I reject this left-wing narrative that's creating more artificial division. So I believe I will bring more Black and Hispanic voters into our movement, not by saying fake poll-tested slogans, but by speaking the hard truth that we've been imperfect in our past, but let us celebrate the progress we've made and reject the media's cherry-picking narratives to actually get to the truth of the matter. And now if we care about black lives, the things we're going to do isn't obsessing about white supremacy. It's actually fixing the problems in our cities, which I will do as our president.
And I think he is correct. I'm glad he didn't back down either. He did not back down. And I totally agree with him. White supremacy is not our problem, especially the black community. I'm sorry, white supremacy is not your problem. You know what's the problem is? The problem is we don't have black families anymore. We don't have neighborhoods anymore. We just have what do they call them? Hoods. We don't have any effective leadership anymore in the black community, you know. And I think that's our main problem. The school system sucks. You know, our black children can't read. We're not taking education seriously. That's our problem. White supremacy, yeah, it exists. I wouldn't even call it white supremacy. Racism exists. But you guys put it in chat, when was the last time you experienced racism? Put it in chat. Let me know. When was the last time you experienced racism? Rough Girl, thank you for the super chat. We gonna eat that. Oh, girl, get that. We gonna eat that ho look. she was mad as hell to me. Mr. E said, we have tons of white on white crime too. Don't get it twisted. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they get tons of white on white crime, but you know, they're trying to spin this narrative saying, you know, I should be afraid of a white supremacy or white supremacists. We can't really, black folks or minorities can't really go anywhere because this white supremacists they're out there to get you. It's going to stop you from achieving your goals and your dreams. Or you can't go to school because you might get harmed at the school because of somebody might do harm to you because of how you look, you know, or your ethnicity. That's the narrative they're trying to push. And we got to push back on it because it's a bunch of BS. Black Zach, her talking over him is absolutely frustrating. He was on fire. I mean, Vivek, like I said, you can't, even if you don't like his talking points, you cannot deny this man is a great debater. He is a great debater. You cannot deny him. Let me see. Now, this leads me to my next topic. I don't know if you guys heard of this Boston mayor, Michelle Wu. Michelle Wu she's married. Does this matter? But I'm just trying to give you a picture of her. It doesn't really matter, but to me, I think it's an important piece of the puzzle. Michelle Wu, you can see she's from Asian descent. She's married to a white man. I don't know if he's Jewish or whatever, but he's a white guy. She's married to him. she was just in the news actually 3 weeks ago for two things. This one recently for racial bias for Claudine Gay's downfall as Harvard president. I'm just really saddened. Now, Claudine Gay, remember, a couple of days ago, I showed you a tape of Professor Claudine, Dr. Claudine. She could not directly say whether or not being anti-Semitic or being racist was a bad thing. She couldn't say if they had punishment for students that attend Harvard University if they were caught in doing anti-Semitic, racist comments, or even saying to harm a Jewish person. She couldn't say it definitively whether or not this was a bad thing or if they would get punishment. So she received backlash over that. Now, then a few weeks later, after that whole testimony in front of Congress, a few weeks later, she then was caught plagiarizing. I guess some people went back to some of her old papers and she was plagiarizing a few papers. One paper, she lifted 2 paragraphs and put it in her own, I think it was her book or some type of thesis or whatever. And so she was caught plagiarizing. Now, I don't know whether or not she used these papers to receive her degree from Harvard, but they caught her. So they said, oh, you got to step down. So she resigned. Now, Michelle Wu is coming into her defense and she's saying, hey, it's because Claudine is Black. Now, I would like to know all the Harvard students that were caught plagiarizing and kicked out of school. All universities have a strong policy against plagiarism. And for Claudine to say, and some other people come into her defense saying, oh, it was a misstep. She forgot to cite her sources. No, it wasn't a misstep. She knew what she was doing. She knew what she was doing. Now she stepped down, but she is still at Harvard. She is still a tenured professor at Harvard, making $900,000 a year at Harvard. And Michelle Wu is sad because she's saying, oh, this was racial bias. You guys put in the chat. Was that racial bias? I think Claudine was being racist herself, because it seems to me it's okay to treat or say anything you want towards a person that looks white, I guess, if it's coming from a minority person. That's totally fine, because the oppressed cannot be racist. So Michelle Wu is nuttier than a nut job. And reason why I'm saying that, I'm going to read some of this insert from this Boston Herald. It says Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is defending Harvard President Claudine Gay after the campus' shortest ever tenured president, resigning following her explosive comments about anti-Semitism, and as a leader faced plagiarism allegations. Wu is blaming racial bias for Gay's downfall at Harvard, noting that people against DEI have been pushing hard for the president's resignation. They're not against, they hired her. You guys don't understand this, how foolish people sound when they say, oh, they didn't like her because she was Black. They hired her. They promoted her. They promoted her. And literally, they were sticking up for her until they found this plagiarism thing. And we got to realize Harvard probably has a lot of Jewish donors. And they said, oh, hell no, she don't even like us. Why would the hell would I? You're going to lose my donation if you don't get rid of her. That's the way that literally works. So if they're so against Black folks, why would they hire her? Michelle Wu, if they against Asian people, why would you get elected? In Boston, in all places, you are the mayor of Boston. Does that make any sense to you guys? Gay was Harvard's first Black president. The Boston mayor, who graduated from Harvard College and Harvard Law School, was asked about Gay during the interview on Wednesday. I'm just really saddened how the whole thing played out. Java with Jimmy. I don't know what that means. Do you guys know what that means? I simply don't believe that 3 minutes of a video clip, especially in a certain setting where you're in a place where people are putting you in a gotcha moment. No, that wasn't no gotcha moment because they kept on repeating the question. She kept on giving this long answer. It's a yes or no question. That wasn't a gotcha moment. And it wasn't a 3-minute video. This shit lasted on for like 30 minutes. I just didn't play the whole clip because you had other representatives asking her the same thing. And she gave that same long answer. Instead of saying no or yes. Yes, we support the comments. No, we're totally against those comments. And we punish severely. We're totally against hate at Harvard University of any kind. And she couldn't say she was against it or Harvard stands against it. Anyway, Gay has been under fire for several weeks as she testified in Congress. And it says during the controversial congressional hearing in front of the Republican-led House committee, Gay refused to characterize calls for genocide of Jews as a breach of Harvard's code of conduct. There has been a report spike in anti-Semitism following the Hamas terrorist attacks in Israel. Jewish and Israeli students have been threatened and assaulted on campus. She has even personally said that the words that were used in a different setting were not the best ones that could have been used. And I think, and this is what Wu said, and I think anyone who's in a position of leadership has a growth curve and a learning curve. Just a few months ago, into being a role like that takes a lot. And she's saying, I don't think anyone, again, is trying to defend certain aspect of what happened, but it's hard to not to put the whole picture together and to look at the dynamics of what happened and how personally this was based. How much sort of racial bias was definitely connected to this. You could give somebody rope enough to basically do themselves in. I think they gave her enough rope to do themselves in. I think they were being very gracious in actuality, to hold her, to let her resign, because they could fire her ass and walked her out the door. And she won't even have a $900,000 job. That's what to me, that's what they should have did. Because what are you saying to all the kids that's in your teaching, and you're telling them, no, we're anti plagiarism. And I'm just talking about plagiarism. We're anti plagiarism. We don't want you to copy no one's work. You got to come up with your own stuff. And you got a professor doing that. Hey, I could plagiarize and get a $900,000 job as long as I went to Harvard. That sounds like that's privilege to me. Very privileged person. You and I don't know nothing about what kind of lifestyle gay has. Claudine Gay. And I also think that diversity and inclusion has nothing to do with what she's talking about. You don't need to be diverse and including people if they doing the wrong things. You got to hire people off their merit. Okay. Now, and not to say, I'm not taking nothing away from Claudine. I'm not for sure how she got to Harvard. And I'm assuming that her parents, were affluent. She came from a affluent Black background, and that's how she ended up going to Harvard. Or maybe she went to Harvard off her smarts. I'm not for sure. And I'm not for sure if she was qualified to be the president of Harvard. They certainly hired her. But we can't say that she shouldn't have, give her time to, get in her role to make the right choices. No, she's a grown woman. She should already be making the right choices. You should already know the code of conduct. You've been working at Harvard for umpteen years. You should already know what to say. And the problem is people are trying to be so politically correct instead of being morally correct. You're trying to sidestep, I don't want to offend nobody. No, sometimes you got to just, hey, these are the rules and that's what we're going to follow. It might hurt your feelings, but these are the rules at Harvard University. So Wu, I have another thing about Wu, and she's talking about the ADL and all that, the Defamation League and all that stuff. One thing about Wu, 3 weeks ago for Christmas, they called her out. They called Michelle Wu out because she had a discriminatory party, a Christmas party, I guess for her staff. But it was like they couldn't have any white people there. You guys heard about this? They couldn't have any white people there. Let me see if I can find it. I thought I'd saved the. Let me just. And some of her employees, I guess, sued or whatever. And I just want to show you. Here's her husband. This guy. That's her husband. They suing her again. Somebody else, 21 North End restaurants accused Boston Mayor Michelle Wu of discrimination in new lawsuit. I'm going to talk about this too in a few seconds. Let me just copy the address. This is it. Boston mayor defends hosting electeds of colors holiday party after email controversy. It says after an invitation for elected officials of color was accidentally sent to the entire Boston City Council, Mayor Michelle Wu spoke to the media about carving out spaces for the communities of color. I don't understand that. Why would you do that? Now you're going to put the council members are supposed to be working together. To me, that doesn't make any sense. It's really irritating. It says Boston Mayor Michelle Wu defended on Wednesday holiday party for elected officials of color after invitation accidentally sent to the entire city council. We had individual conversations with one another, so people understand that it was truly just an honest mistake that went out in typing the email field. She said in an interview with a local news station, I look forward to celebrating with everyone at the holiday parties we will have besides this one as well. I wouldn't even went to that bullshit. Elected of colors holiday party. What the hell does that mean? What does that mean? It says, I think we all have been in a position at one point where an email went out and there was a mistake in the recipients. So there was truly just an honest mistake, and that happened in issuing the invitation. But she doesn't see nothing wrong with just having a party with just some of your city councils. If that was the case, you wouldn't even send it. I wouldn't even say I'd send it out to your hey, what's your not your business email address, what's your personal email address? Because I want to invite you to this party. It'd be like one-on-one personal thing, not through the business email. And I'm getting tired of a woman of color, first woman and person of color. This is NBC News, first woman and person of color. Who writes like this? It's not at all divisive. What do you call it? It's not divisive. It's creating spaces for people and communities and identities with shared experiences to come together. No, if you want shared experiences, you invite everybody. That's what you're supposed to do. Somebody said if this is Frank Baker, white city council member, she said he doesn't care about not being invited. He said, I don't get offended. You don't want me at your party? I'm not going to come to the party, he told Boston and other media. I guess they took her to court. I don't know. If I was the city council, everything she does, I would go against. If it's like not really major, I'll still do my job, but I'll make her life miserable just because of this. And now it's saying no whites party did not violate the laws of Massachusetts. This is from the Attorney General. Wouldn't that be a hate crime? That's a workplace discrimination. You guys let me know. Is this workplace discrimination? You don't invite white folks to the party. Workplace discrimination. So the Attorney General said it was okay. And if I was these people, I wouldn't even showed up. I wouldn't have showed up to that. This is the attorney general. That's why she's not investigating, because it's a black lady. She's like, oh, it's okay to discriminate. It's okay to segregate. And you get mad if somebody say, oh, no, this is a white only. Remember, this is what we fought for. You can't come to this store. This is a white only store. I want you guys to realize, you might not say, oh, you might be thinking like, oh, I don't see the problem. But just imagine if a white person says, what was the party called? People of Color Party? Something of Color Party? Of whites. Electeds of whites. Holiday party. How do you feel about that? Does it make you mad? Like, what the hell? It's elected of whites. Holiday they accidentally sent to you. Then you go to Michelle, you email back, is this a typo? It says elected of whites. Holiday party. You know, you'll get upset. So this attorney general said, no, it's no problem. This is the attorney general, Andrea Campbell, is not investigating the party despite receiving complaints. Her office said Wu did not violate laws because the event was not public. It wasn't public. So they said it was okay for her to do this. And so off of, let's move away. You guys put it in chat. Let me know what you think. Matter of fact, let me go to some of your comments. To be fair, using terms like first women and person of color helps search engine optimization or her ability to get clicks. A better search engine results positioning. Oh, that's good to know. Don J. Mack, isn't it strange that these DEI females end up marrying white guys since they all appear trying to balance the system from discrimination? Why don't they just marry a black man? You know, and you know, they like Sunny Holston, she got a black or a white boy husband. She has a white husband. Whoopi Goldberg was married to a white guy too. But these people, and Michelle Wu, married to a white guy. You have your girl Kamala Harris, she's married to a white guy, and they use white supremacy all the time. They use that, they hang on that term. Like that's like their favorite talking point, white supremacy. Samuel Matthews saying they made the mistake of sending white people invitations. Yeah, they made a mistake. Anyway, the attorney general, she didn't break any laws, so they're not investigating her. But you do have somebody else is trying to sue him or sue her. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, your boy, I think I seen somebody in the chat talking about it. Your boy Al Sharpton. Your boy is leading the protests. He's leading the protests for Claudine Gay. Against Bill Ackman after Claudine Gay resigns. She still has her job, though. What are we protesting for?
This issue is not just about what they did to this president of Harvard University, who is the first black woman to be president. It's about they used her as a scapegoat to fight DEI.
Stop it. They didn't use her as a scapegoat. They didn't do that. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about DEI before I get off. DEI is fizzling out. You know why it's fizzling out? Because you give them an inch, they take a damn mile. And they just ruined the program. It probably did some good back in the day, but you ruined the program.
We would not.
Nobody want to be diverse or inclusive. We're getting tired of that shit. Just come in and do your damn job. I don't care if you are black. I don't care if you think you're of another gender. I don't give a shit. Just come in, do your job. I don't care. Just go into your cubby and do your damn job. I don't care about your struggles. Do you have that report ready? That's what work is going to be. It's going to be like no chit chat. No, I'm not trying to feel the way you feel. I don't care. I just want you to do your job. I want you to do your job to the best of your abilities because we hired you and we're paying you X, Y, and Z.
Would have to have DEI. If we didn't have DENY, we would deny. DEI was to make up for the denial historically of blacks, of women, of gays, of Latinos, and Asians. This man decided that he would stand up and say that taking out Dr. Guy is the beginning of taking out DEI. I want to come to his office and let him know that we will fight him. We said nothing when the fight was at Harvard, but now he's declared war against all of us.
Now, one thing I do agree with Al Sharpton, reason why DEI exists, because we were denied. Okay, yeah, back in the day, I think that was very true. DEI came at a point, and I wouldn't even say DEI, I would say just affirmative action. Okay, we could say affirmative action did help individuals. Capable, and what I want to point out, capable, because back then you had Black folks and other races working very hard, harder than their white counterparts, very smart, very articulate, achieve at their highest level. We had Black individuals doing that. Now, it seems as if DEI and affirmative action is just a way to say, oh, this is not the top performing individual, but we need to fill a body. We need a body of this gender, race, skin color, age group, whatever. We need to fill that gap in. So we're just gonna hire anyone. They're okay, but we're gonna hire anyone. So instead of hiring off merits and what they actually their abilities, they're just hiring off, oh, this person is a convenience for us. So they're okay. Now, can we say Harvard individuals and other people that goes to those elite schools? We could say they're probably some of them are mediocre. You don't have the smartest tools in the shed at Harvard. Now, can we say MIT? You're not getting in MIT. They don't care if you got mommy and daddy. You got to be like super intelligent to get in MIT. But Harvard or Yale, you just probably have to have the money to back you up. And if you go on a scholarship, hopefully you go on an academic scholarship. Okay. So I totally agree with him. We probably needed affirmative action back then. Probably when he was trying to get a job, he probably needed affirmative action. Do we need affirmative action now? You guys put it in chat. Let me know. Do you think we need affirmative action now? Now, if you're living in the South, maybe you feel different because they said the South maybe is a prejudice down there. I'm not for sure. I lived in Greensboro, North Carolina for about 3 years, in Texas for about 1 year. I didn't experience any type of racism down there. Matter of fact, I think it's more racist in Michigan than in North Carolina. But that's my own personal opinion. But I did not, and I have not received discrimination. I haven't experienced discriminatory things towards me applying for my engineering job. Every job that I literally applied for, they didn't say, oh, how you going to get here? No, these people flew me out to the interview. They paid for it. And my name is Chawanne. Okay. Like, what kind of name is that? And back then, that was a black name. Now it's like, oh, that's a more okay name. But come on now. Do we need DEI? Claudine Gay was fired or resigned, forced to resign from presidency because she couldn't fit the bill. She didn't know when to make or how to answer tough questions and to stand firm on the tough answers. You probably would have offended some people, but she probably would have still had her job if she would not misstep that question several times for about 30 minutes. And that leaves it makes me believe that she don't like Jewish people. And you can't say you don't like Jewish people and they're paying your salaries. So before I get off, I want to talk about DEI. This is Google. People are stepping away from DEI. I'm sorry. People are stepping away from DEI, whether or not I think it's that's the first thing to cut is HR, non-essential staff. So we're going to cut DEI. Google slashes diversity programs after big promises. You know why they beefed up DEI? You guys tell me, why did they beef up DEI? Because of George Floyd. After George Floyd happened, it happened on the camera. People were upset. You know, it touched people. People were upset. I read, this is Blazak. I read that affirmative actions benefited white women most. You're absolutely right. I read that diversity is great for improved innovation, but nothing about how effective DEI programs are. Thoughts, and I totally agree with you. I think you should have a diverse team because everybody don't think the same, you know, and it helps with the innovative process of your company or whatever you're trying to build. And you're absolutely right. It benefits a white woman the most, but now, not anymore. Now they're putting on your application non-binary, transgender. I even seen some asexual. You know, it's going to benefit more gender defining people. You know, if you define yourself as one of these genders that, you know, they're classifying now, I think that's the way that they're going. And will we see an uptick of discriminatory lawsuits because of this? I think if they're putting it on the application, I believe that that company is more susceptible in hiring multiple genders. That's part of their culture. So it's easy to deny a person a position because of their gender or whatever, because all you have to say is, no, this person didn't have the qualifications that we need, you know. So as far as diversity and inclusion or filling those gaps, I think now is just a small hole that they need to be filled. But now you get all these diversity. You have female, you have people of color, and then you have gender identities. So which one are you going to choose? So I'm going to choose somebody like Don Lemon. Don Lemon checks off all the box. He's gay, black, or no, I'll choose somebody like, I don't even know if Claudine Gay is gay. I'm not for sure. I'm just putting that out there. Allegedly, I'm not for sure. Just for example, if Claudine Gay was gay, Claudine, she's black, she's a woman, and she's a lesbian. Or she might be non-binary. I'm not for sure. But she checks all the boxes. So she will benefit more now. And you know who's going to get mad? The feminists, the white feminists. That's why you're seeing, that's why these tables are kind of turning. White feminists are starting to really get irritated. And they're starting to cry too. Because where is their special treatment? Anyway. So diversity and inclusion. It says in 2020, Google made a sweeping commitments to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in wake of a nationwide protest over racial injustice. But just a few weeks or few years later, many of those programs are seeing significant cuts, according to CNBC. This was shortly after George Floyd and the rise of Black Lives Matter movement. The Google CEO, Sundar Pichai, pledged major initiatives like increasing underrepresented groups and leadership roles and more than doubling Black representation in non-senior positions by 2025. Google also aimed to improve hiring, retention, and promotion practices impacting diversity. However, CNBC has learned that Google backtracked on some of their key diversity programs in 2023 amid a tightening budget. Notable, Google decided against hiring a new cohort for its early career immersion program for underrepresented software engineering talent next year. The company also laid off some staff supporting this initiative. In another case, participants in Google's apprenticeship program raised concerns over lower pay compared to other engineers doing similar work. Apprentices claimed they were contributing heavily to Google's code base while earning just half of what's full-time software engineers made. I don't think you could complain about that. That's why you're apprentice, okay? Back in the day, some interns didn't even get paid. So what are you talking about? You're apprentice. How long do you have to stay an apprentice? I don't know. I'm not a part of the program, but that's what your job. You're an intern or apprentice, meaning you're learning the skill set, and you shouldn't complain. The more experience you have, the better the coder you'll be. Additionally, Google cuts roles managing partnerships and recruiting for underrepresented groups. The company also reduced learning programs that aim to foster inclusion. You should. You talk about foster inclusion. What does that mean? And you guys put it in chat. What does fostering inclusion mean? This is sound like Michelle Wu needs to foster some inclusion since she included only half of her staff to the People of Color Party. No, elected of color party, holiday party. I'm not for sure what that means. In response to this article, Google spokesperson said, our workforce reductions and company-wide efforts to sharpen our focus span the breadth of our business and cherry-picking examples to suggest we ID prioritizing our long-standing efforts for underrepresented communities. Our DEI work is inaccurate and misleading. To be absolutely clear, our commitment to this work has not changed, and we invested in many new programs and partnerships this year. And it says, meanwhile, sources says Google's recent layoffs includes leaders from employee resource groups focused on racial diversity. The pullback on diversity commitments mirrors a broader decline in the DEI and B investment across tech sectors in 2023. Diversity-related jobs posting have dropped 44% year over year per Indeed. 44% because they're saying DEI is not needed. You're wasting money. That's what companies like to look at their bottom line. You're wasting money. There are a lot of tech jobs out there, and if I'm not mistaken, they do have where I know Intel used to recruit at, I went to HBCU. You could recruit at these HBCU colleges that have a computer engineering program or even these coding camps. They have Black Tech Fest. You could recruit there. I mean, there's things that you could do. HR people, they don't necessarily need to be a DEI specialist to recruit. And can we go back to that Meta girl that stole $4 million and she was over the DEI program too? So people are starting to realize maybe we don't need a DEI. It costs too much, number one, and it's probably causing more harm than good. It says tech giants like Meta have also made similar cuts. When spoke about specific cuts, a Google spokesperson did not dispute details to CNBC, but stated that the company remains strongly dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's what it says. I'm not going to read this last part because it sounds stupid. That's what it says. So people are stepping away with companies are downsizing from DEI. This is another article. Yahoo. After announcing its DEI investment, Google has reported lay out DEI. Okay. Yahoo is even reporting Google. They calling out Google for being a hypocrite. Google, you're a hypocrite. Another post. Google, Meta, other tech giants / DEI related jobs, resource groups in 2023 report. Slashing jobs, the DEI jobs. What's going on with diversity? Another report. DEI program in universities are being cut across the country. Not the universities. What does this mean for higher education? And you got people protesting. Leave her schools alone. So the new College of Florida, your lady Hernandez was just 7 months into a job as chief diversity officer. These are high-paying positions. Chief diversity officer, and the board of trustees said it's dissolving the diversity and equity and inclusion office. They're saying, hey, we need to dissolve this. It's not doing us any good. They're saying she spent, now, what do you do as a DEI chief diversity officer? What does your job entail? As a DEI officer, what does that look like? But Rosario, who spent those 7 months busy helping students with things like counseling resources and financial literacy, while also advising schools' former president and assisting with recruitment efforts. Why are you doing counseling resources and financial literacy? Your whole purpose of that is for recruitment, to make sure you have a mixed group of people coming into your school or college. So basically, she wasn't doing that for 7 months, and she was the chief diversity officer. And you know who is glad about it? Ron DeSantis. Because Ron DeSantis signed a bill banning public colleges and universities from spending money on DEI in May. It says that similar moves are happening across the country. Multiple states like North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin banned the teaching of inherently divisive concepts. What does that mean? And has spoken out against equity initiatives. You know how I feel about that equity word. They could throw that whole word in the trash. It doesn't mean anything. But, of course, the conservatives argue DEI is about indoctrination. Not for sure if it's indoctrination. I know, I think you just should hire on a person's merit. I really do. I think it's a bunch of BS when they're saying that diversity, equity, inclusion, and they start playing this violin saying, oh, we want to include everybody. Everyone needs equity. I think it's a bunch of BS. Okay. A bunch of BS. That's about it today. That is about it. Let me just go to all my bookmarks. That is about it, you guys. So I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. It's been real. Blazak, yeah, that's what it sounded like. Critical race theory. What they was talking about in that article. Inherently divisive concepts. Tomorrow, I'm not for sure if I'm going to come on live tomorrow. It all depends on what's going on in the household. I got to get the kids back to school. They got soccer practice. They're doing a bunch of sports this semester or this first half of the year. So I don't know if I'm going to come online tomorrow. If I do, I'll post it up early and let you know. But Sunday, I will be back on. Okay. Sunday, we're going to come back on and we're going to talk about some stuff. So I've seen another story about your girl, Tiffany Henyard. So I'm going to talk about that. And I believe I had something churning in the wind about Senator Bob Menendez. He's been in the news. Well, he's been in the news for a while. His whole scandal of taking bribes. Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to present that story on Sunday. Hopefully, I'll have that ready. Okay, so thank you all for tuning in. I am sending all my good to, and I will talk to you soon.